It's hard for you to back on.
So just to clarify, members of the public that are attending via Zoom, please turn off your mic and your camera. The individuals that you see with the cameras on are Director Brander and Director Scott. Alternate Director Scott, acting in the place of Director McCormick. And then that way we end up with a meeting with a screen full of a bunch of faces. It's confusing. Okay, it's 3 o'clock. So I think this chair's sinking. Okay, it's 3 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And I'm first going to recognize that this meeting is taking place on the traditional territory of the Tla'amin people. Moving on to item number 2, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or changes? If not, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. So Director Lennox, seconded by Director Elliott. Any discussion? None. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. On to item number 3, adoption of the minutes. April 29th, 2025. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, looking for a motion to adopt. Director Lennox and seconded by Director Southcott. All in favor? Any opposed? None. That is carried. Okay, on to delegations and inquiries. 4.1. Delith Harper, Foundry Cathet Project Manager, refunding request for capital development of Foundry Cathet. Long time no see.
So you've heard this before, but it is slightly different this time.
Okay. And what is it, 10 minutes or 5?
10 minutes.
You see, you have 10 minutes, and if you go over, then we'll seek consent from the board if the time needs to be extended. So go ahead, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to present today on behalf of Foundry Cathet. My name is Delith Harper, and I'm the Foundry Cathet Project Manager. And today I'm going to quickly touch on who Youth and Family is, what Foundry is, why it's needed in our community, and how it provides comprehensive, high-quality healthcare for young people aged 12 to 24. So Youth and Family is a host agency for Foundry Cathet, and our offices are located on the traditional territory of the Tla'amin Nation. We're a nonprofit organization and a registered charity. Youth and Family is the leading service provider for youth in our community, and these services will integrate well with Foundry programming. So what is Foundry? Now more than ever, we know that youth need support. Foundry's mission is to support young people in living a good life and to transform access to services for young people aged 12 to 24 in BC and their caregivers. So these numbers give an overview of what our youth are currently facing. I won't go into too much detail with this data, as everyone here knows the issues and challenges our youth are unfortunately experiencing. We all know of or have had direct experience with a young person struggling with their mental or physical health and the lack of free, youth-friendly resources and supports available, not to mention the complicated systems that youth and their families must navigate to find the right help, if it's even available. Our youth in the Cathet region deserve better. Foundry is a province-wide network of integrated health and wellness services for young people ages 12 to 24, and it's a proven solution for these challenges. The development of Foundry Cathet involves the coming together of pre-existing youth-focused services already available in our community. It will provide a full range of services with an integrated approach that suits our community's highlighted needs. So as you can see here in this data, Foundry is a proven model for improving youth wellness that's been in action since the first one opened in 2015. And our community has now been gifted the chance to bring this incredible solution here. It's a unique once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that will serve this community for generations to come. So at Foundry, young people can access 5 core services at one youth-friendly location. And these are mental health care, substance use services, physical and sexual health care, youth and family peer supports, and social services. In today's presentation, I'm going to discuss the healthcare-related core services in more detail. All Foundries are designated healthcare centers. However, what sets Foundry apart from a regular healthcare facility is that we take an integrated and highly collaborative approach to youth healthcare. Foundry Cathet will provide a comprehensive system of care that ensures health promotion, prevention, and early intervention, and that they're core components of our service delivery. All primary care services at Foundry Cathet are youth and family centered and are collaborative and empowering to both. Primary care at Foundry Cathet is team-based and collaborative. Everyone works together as a team, with staff from all core services working and communicating with the primary care team to support youth and their caregivers and provide optimal scope. Foundry Cathet is integrated. Integration of services occurs through an intentional partnerships and collaborative intersectorial working relationships, with special attention on the actual process of integration. Services are timely, accessible, developmentally appropriate, socially inclusive, welcoming, equitable, and culturally safe. The space, service delivery, and service hours are designed to ensure this. Primary care services at all Foundry centers are continuously evaluated through evidence-informed practices and Foundry's data collection method called Toolbox. Primary care services at Foundry Cothette are connected to the community. Services are created with community input, with ongoing efforts to connect and collaborate with community partners. Primary care services are culturally humble, and Foundry Central Office is currently building out an Indigenous wellness framework to promote cultural competency, safety, and humility across the network. So the goal in Foundry Cothette is to provide comprehensive, high-quality healthcare for young people aged 12 to 24 in a way that complements and coordinates with community resources. So what is primary care at Foundry? Primary care is the first access to the healthcare system for many people, and it encompasses physical and sexual health, mental health, and substance use services. Like I said, Foundry takes an integrated and team-based approach across centers, meaning there are multiple professionals working as a team to support the health of youth and provide support to their caregivers. Primary care services at Foundry Cothette will be planned in a way that reflects the unique context of our community. We have a wonderful group of healthcare professionals that are currently supporting the development of primary care in Foundry Cothette. This model of care supports an integrated, interdisciplinary team approach. For example, a youth comes in presenting for physical health issues and identifies a need for income assistance. Social services partners are available on site for the primary care provider to connect the youth with, which allows for a fluid transition from one provider to another. Oh, missed those circles. And how does primary care look within Foundry? There are three main streams of service that the primary care team aim to provide at Foundry Cothette. Primary care can be offered both through walk-in and by appointment, depending on the availability of primary care staff. Drop-in times will be aligned with walk-in counseling and peer support and other social services programming to support the integration. Some primary care concerns may fit into more than one category listed here. We aim to attach clients to longitudinal care based on their preferences. However, if a youth is already well connected with a family practitioner in their community and wants to continue seeking care from them, the visit would qualify as episodic or specialized and incorporate some information sharing with their existing external practitioner. Youth accessing longitudinal care at Foundry often are the ones experiencing multiple barriers to accessing traditional health care services and are not connected to other care. So Foundry Cothette's primary care medical services are connected to the community. Primary care at the center is developed in partnership with Foundry Cothette's community partners. Foundry Cothette is working hard to communicate clearly with the community about primary care services that will be provided. Foundry Cothette will be able to support community primary care providers working in the center with access to enhanced services that are youth focused. And Foundry Cothette has the ability to provide longitudinal care for complex youth with access to wraparound care integrated with other services. Foundry Cothette youth clients who are aging out of Foundry services or are stabilized well enough that they could be served well in a general practice setting are transitioned to general practitioners in the community who have self-identified an interest in working with youth and young adults. Foundry Cothette's primary care medical services are accessible. There is center-based access to virtual care, which is supported by Foundry Provincial Virtual Care. Foundry Cothette is aiming to have youth-friendly hours for primary care services, such as after-school hours and into the early evening. Foundry Cothette will offer drop-in, same-day, and booked appointments. Drop-in hours will be several times per week and align with the drop-in counseling, peer support, and social services. Certain days and times will be available for the booked appointments and follow-ups. The Foundry aims to reach youth by providing barrier-free services and supports before they hit crisis. We want to reach young people early so that we can help address small problems before they become bigger ones, and primary care is an important part of this service. At Foundry, you can access services without needing a referral and on a drop-in basis. So whether a young person needs support for anxiety or depression, they want to see a family doctor, or they're just struggling with a stressful situation, Foundry Cothette will help get them the services they need. So can you imagine a space like this in our community? We're designing out a beautiful space for all the youth in the Cothette Regional District to access and creating an incredible piece of infrastructure in the heart of our town. There are some photos of Foundry centers around BC. Foundry Cothette will be culturally safe, inclusive, and a youth-friendly space. Foundry Cothette will be welcoming and accessible for all those who are accessing it. The youth of this community deserve a safe space to gather and connect with one another in a place where they are welcomed and celebrated, not just tolerated. And Foundry Cothette will be that space. We're excited about our current progress on this initiative, and the future is even more promising. When the doors open, young people and their families in our community will no longer have to ask, where can we go for help? Because Foundry Cothette will be the answer. Thank you for considering our request for funding. This is true preventative care for our youth, and together we can make this happen and create a space for the youth of today and tomorrow. Youth in our community deserve wraparound, youth-centered primary care services that are barrier-free, compassionate, inclusive, and non-judgmental. Financial support now will help the overall project stay on track and open on time. And the quicker we open the doors of Foundry Cothette, the quicker we can start supporting our youth.
55 seconds to spare.
Pretty efficient.
Very impressive. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation and all the hard work you're doing. Before I jump in, I'm going to ask around our board. But first, I want to recognize that we have John Hackett, Tla'amin Nation representative on the Cothette Regional Hospital District, who has joined us during the presentation. So we now have a full hospital district one. I'm going to throw it open to the directors. Anyone want to ask any questions of the delegation? Director Southcott, and then Director Elliott. Director Lennox. Go ahead, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah.
My interest in youth goes back to when I was growing up here and I was involved in designing a youth center, which didn't really turn out to work. So it goes back a ways. Over the years, I've been aware of studies in Europe, I think started in Iceland, to try to address a whole bunch of problems with youth and young adults. If they don't have other things to do, then often self-management ends up in dysfunctional approaches like drugs, alcohol, and etc. And it takes a whole lot more time to reverse that and investment from society than it does to prevent it. So this looks all very lovely. However, I think if we compare it to what's available to the adult population of our society and communities, it's the same sort of thing basically, but it is an approach that aims at creating healthy adults. And this is what I'm getting out of this. I have a question that's not exact. I just had to make that point because it's something that really jumped out at me with your presentation this time. And I think I've listened to your presentations, I don't know how many times now, right?
Yeah.
And every time something new comes out, it would suggest that there's going to be some pretty expensive professionals sitting around waiting for youth to come in. And I'm curious as to, obviously this works.
Mm-hmm.
This model works. So how do they figure that out? Like, how do they use their time efficiently and actually provide the kind of services that are provided in many foundries around the province in a way that that looks so good? How does that work? How do the people work?
We're talking about, for example, the primary care providers.
Scheduling and, with all the other responsibilities that these people who will be working in this one, can you speak to that or?
I can speak to the primary care piece. We would recruit and retain doctors and nurses who are interested specifically in working with youth and understand Foundry and how it functions and how to integrate with other services. So they were already coming in with an investment to want to work with youth and make primary care youth-centered and youth-friendly. And in terms of them waiting around, for most people, their primary care is, and I can show you the data I can send an impact report from last year, the Foundry impact report, but it goes over like how many youth are accessing different programs. So they're not often waiting around. There's youth coming in those drop-in times because they're running concurrently with all other services. So you've got your sexual health, your substance use, your counseling, we've got the drop-in space open at that time. So youth who are maybe afraid to go visit a general practitioner, they're in this friendly space, everything's running at the same time. There's some confidentiality about where they're going. No one knows if they're going to go see primary care or jump in to go see sexual health. It just makes it a more youth-friendly approach to it.
So the practitioners figure it out. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's what at the moment, we have a clinical operations working group up and running, and it's with, we've got nurse practitioners sitting on it. We've got doctors, the Division of Family Practice, the PCN manager, all of us working together to figure out how do we want to do service delivery in Foundry Cothette, and listening to the youth, listening to the primary care providers, and coming up with something that will work specifically for our community. And so I can't really point to each individual foundry because every single one does one differently, because it's very unique to the context of the community, which is the great approach of foundry.
It's very reassuring to know that there are a number of them that are already working, and I'm sure that I'm sure that there's methods. Just yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
We have a really passionate group of primary care providers at the moment helping.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna kick it over to Director Elliott. Our clock is at 19 seconds, so I'm gonna ask the assembly if they would like to extend the time by 5 minutes. Okay, I'm seeing nods. Okay, Director Elliott, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you again.
I know, show up everywhere now.
No, it's excellent to absorb things more than once. When you were talking about a continuous evaluation, you talked about a thing called a toolbox.
Yeah, so that's Foundry's data collection platform.
Okay.
It's the same across all Foundry centers, and it's how they collect basically their data and review it and evaluate it. See what's working, what's not working, where can we improve?
Do we have boundaries currently in communities our size that are functioning?
Similar to our size, for example, Comox, Campbell River, not quite our size. There's one in the Kootenays as well. Yeah, there's multiple that we've looked at to see their data around primary care and how it would fit in our community.
Okay. And then would there be more information around the capital design along with the budgets attached to those? So there can be more information about, I know you have a budget of 5 million, but that's based on it's not a detailed.
Yeah, we do have a Class D budget at the moment that breaks down all the construction costs. And then we've got our almost finalized schematic design. It's just going through the final step of approval.
And are you expecting any change between the Class D and the final?
The Class D is more like, our designer said it's more like a Class C, like it's pretty accurate in terms of what the cost is gonna be. And it's based on a lot of projects she's done before and the size of our space and what we need in the space.
And that amount was 5 million?
No, the total amount for the Class D off the top of my head is 6,625,000. But we already have some money put aside for that. So the 5 million is what we're left to fundraise.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that number because I don't have it right in front of me, but I feel like it's that,
Yeah, I scribbled it. I can barely read.
hopefully in pencil.
Director Lennox.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thanks again. It's good for people to understand. I guess my first question is, from the presentation, sort of along the same lines as Director Elliott, where is the project at? Because you've identified like the 12,000 square foot facility. So maybe, and also for people that are watching and tied in with that, what is really the ask right now? Because I see there's be a champion, right? I like that terminology, and for the qRD to be but we need to define that and then financially, again, sort of narrow that down for us, right? And that's the first question.
Which one's?
Well, basically, what's the ask, right,
Okay.
from us?
My original ask was 25,000, but that was based on asking the qRD and then the regional hospital district both for 25,000. But I was told that because we're a designated healthcare facility, we only fall under the regional hospital district. So I'm hoping to up our ask to 50,000.
Okay. Good, that's good to know.
And then in terms of project progress, we're right on track. We're just in like the final stages of lease negotiation. It's taken a bit to go back and forth because we're a nonprofit, so sometimes we function differently than renting out to a corporation, for example. So we're almost done there. Demolition of the space should start towards the end of July. So it's going to be demoed back. And then we should be starting construction. I think February 1st is our start date for construction. Yes.
Follow up, go ahead. Yeah, so I'm just, maybe we can anticipate grant and aid applications and that type of thing. Or if you already have, right? That
For the
Original
regional,
one that we
Yeah.
had? Is that what you were saying? The original one was the?
I had applied to the Cothette Regional District and then was told that we fit more into this.
Good, just so we can define where we're at historically. And just a quick follow-up question along Director Southcott. How does the, the people that are involved obtain the care with no referrals being needed? You need those physicians and caregivers to basically be engaged already and sort of be part of your staff. Is that the idea? Maybe you could flesh that out a bit.
In terms of the primary care providers, so whoever would be providing primary care gets a good overview of integration. There's people from Foundry Central Office that will come down and they do a special workshop on integration and how it's supposed to function in the Foundry Center, because it's different than your traditional primary care. And then anyone offering services there, we would make sure that they're feeling comfortable and have training in how to offer youth-friendly services, and work with families and caregivers and work with youth.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay, we got 5 seconds left, but I see Director Brander has raised his hand. So with unanimous consent of the assembly, I'd like to ask for another 5 minutes. Seeing thumbs up. Okay, Director Brander, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Chair. The presenter has mentioned a number of services that Foundry would offer. I'm curious if Youth and Family offers any of those services currently.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose of Foundry, is that we're taking pre-existing services and then putting them all under one roof. Because with our operational budget, we would not be able to provide the scope of services that that are offered in most foundries. But because we're using pre-existing community providers services and reaching out to all these people and drafting up MOAs and MOUs, we're able to offer like a wide scope. So Youth and Family would definitely be offering services under Foundry, and quite a few of our services do fit under it.
Okay, so you're offering some of these services already, and all these services are being offered in the community, or?
Not all of them. They're kind of scattered, and a lot of things you need a referral for, and there's wait lists. So for example, drop-in counseling, that's not offered anywhere. Drop-in primary care is not offered anywhere. Those types of things would be new within the Foundry, but a lot of the social services would be ones that are already existing in the community. And then other services, like for example, Youth and Family offers parent-teen mediation. That would just be something that could supplement Foundry services, or our strength and self-counseling program for teens. That could be something that supplements the programming that we already do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I'll put myself on the speakers list, and then I'll get Director Elliott for the second kick at the can. Okay, so my question comes in relation to capital funding and the Ministry of Health. Has the Ministry of Health committed any funding so far?
Yeah, so every Foundry gets 1.5 million towards their capital. And so when I said that original number of 6,625,000, and then that we're fundraising for 5 million, that's taking into account the 1.5 million that we already have towards the capital development.
Okay, and as I understand, you're asking for $50,000 from the Cadet Regional Hospital District. We did have a bit of a discussion at the Finance Committee. This is for Mr. Hackett, who is not a member of the Cadet Regional District, and I do believe that we have referred that application to this board. Is that correct? Question to our corporate officer.
Thank you so much, Chair. Tomorrow at the hospital or at the regional district, you will consider a motion to promote this to that regional hospital district.
That makes sense. We forwarded it from the Finance Committee. It will eventually come to the hospital district, but it's got to go through the regional district board, which happens tomorrow. So sorry for the delay. It's government. We don't go quick. Okay, so 50,000, you got 1.5 from Vancouver Coastal Health. Oh, and my last one, because later on the agenda, there's a motion about applying to the Ministry of Health for designated healthcare facilities, and Foundries all become healthcare facilities. So I'm just wondering, is that automatically, or is there some paperwork that has to be filed for that?
I'm not sure about that, actually. I just know that our operational funding comes in part from the Ministry of Health. And so for that reason, we have to all follow the same standards and be a designated healthcare facility. I can reach out to Foundry Central Office and get you that answer though.
Okay, and we can also check with our corporate officer, because regional hospital districts, we have some limitations on what we can fund. My understanding is it has to be a designated healthcare facility, and we've recently learned that we actually can apply to have areas designated healthcare facilities. So, it's my understanding. I'm seeing some nods. Okay. That's all the questions from me. Director Elliott, second kick at the can.
Thank you, Chair. So currently in our community, there are youth that may be eligible for CLBC funding once they turn 18, 19 probably in this province. But they've lacked the screening and don't become diagnosed prior to that age, and then forevermore are not eligible for CLBC. Is there going to be opportunities to increase for CLBC screening for people who have fallen through the cracks and maybe not had a diagnosis already by the time they show up at the foundry? Or is that something people will still specifically have to pursue even if they weren't aware of it as an option?
That is actually something that's not come across our desk. So knowing that that's a gap in service is definitely something we can look into.
Thank you. And you know what CLBC?
Yeah, they are actually a partner that sits on one of our tables. That just hasn't
Okay.
never been brought up in discussion. So I can reach out to them and just ask, yeah, how we can support that in Foundry.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm not seeing any other hands up. So thank you very much for your presentation, and we've
Thank
just run out of time at 0. Thank you. Okay, on to the next item, 4.2, Mark Scott, Kathy Corlett, Carolyn Jackson, Sherry Burton, on behalf of the Westview Ratepayers Society returns the lease between that regional hospital district. And for members of the public, they have also submitted some correspondence, which falls under delegation inquiries. And also in relation to a lease that can be found on a 79 to 79 to 98, not 198. Go ahead, the floor is yours. We'll start the clock.
Okay, good afternoon, Chair and Hospital Board Directors. Thanks for the opportunity to present this delegation to you today. My name is Mark Scott, and I'm a member of the Westview Ratepayers Society Supportive Housing Subcommittee. I represent the Lower Willington Heights subdivision, which is the area that is occupied west of Joyce Avenue between Harvey and Abbotsford Street down to Marine Avenue. Unfortunately, Rick Craig, the president of the Westview Ratepayers Society and chair of this subcommittee, is in Vancouver and unable to present today. In his absence, Kathy Corlick, vice president of the Westview Ratepayers Society, joins me as a representative of the board today. Additionally, Upper Willington Heights Community Subdivision Representative Carolyn Jackson is on the Zoom call today. And her area that she represents is above Joyce Avenue, south of the supportive housing building, towards Alberni Street up to Ontario Avenue. And Sherry Burton is also on the Zoom call. The Westview Ratepayers, and in particular, this subcommittee strongly support housing the unhoused in our community. For almost 3 years, the subcommittee has been engaging with BC Housing, supportive housing provider, Lift Community Services, and City Council to address significant operational issues with the current supportive housing building at 4910 Joyce Avenue. We believe that an external evaluation of the housing provider's management and operation is necessary. Furthermore, any identified issues need to be addressed before the construction of a second supportive housing building, shelter complex care facility adjacent to the Cathet Regional Hospital should occur. Since the shelter closed, and that I'm referring to the emergency shelter that closed in March, dedicated members of our organization and the public have been providing outreach to unhoused individuals and participating in ongoing discussions with the MLA Randine Neal's office, the city, and other community members to try and find a viable solution to the emergency shelter space. Attached to our delegation submission, you'll find the lease agreement between the Powell River Regional Hospital Board and the Provincial Rental Housing Corporation, which is administered by BC Housing Corporation, and also attached are the terms of the instrument for your reference. We note that initial term for the lease was 40 years with options for 2 consecutive 10-year renewals. I'd like to draw your attention to section 9.4 of the lease agreement, nuisance. And in the lease, it states that a tenant will not carry on or suffer or permit to be carried on in or upon the leased area, anything which constitutes a nuisance or annoyance to any neighboring properties or their owners or occupants. For greater certainty, the use of the leased area for the permitted uses will not constitute a nuisance. According to the Freedom of Information response record we obtained attached to the presentation, we have 2 letters dated September 27th, 2023 from the hospital board to the executive director of Lyft Community Services. These letters include the following statements. We would like to address with you the ongoing antisocial issues spilling from Lyft's supportive housing facility, 4910 Joyce Avenue, onto adjacent regional hospital district property. Your district staff have spent numerous hours dealing with the issues from the site, talking to the following: RCMP, Lyft staff, city bylaw officers, and neighbors. We believe that the root cause of these issues stems from the activities introduced by the establishment of the supportive housing unit. The results of this correspondence was that the hospital board decided to fire smart the property and request Lyft to contribute funding toward the same. Well, the letters referenced ongoing antisocial issues and stated that the root cause of these issues stems from activities introduced by the supportive housing unit. It does not appear that these concerns were addressed directly with the tenant in accordance with the nuisance clause in the lease. Our members in the community report frequent instances of violence, sexual assaults, coercion within the supportive housing facility. We also hear regular reports of disturbances, theft, antisocial behavior affecting neighboring properties and businesses, including owners and occupants. We respectfully request that the hospital board, in its capacity as landlord, fulfill its fiduciary duty and address these ongoing nuisance issues that are affecting both the supportive housing facility and the neighboring properties. We believe that these issues largely relate to the current management and operations of a housing provider. We urge the hospital board as landlord to ensure compliance with the terms of the instrument and specifically to evaluate the current tenant's performance. We ask that appropriate action be taken to address the nuisance concerns raised by the community. And given that this is an urgent matter, we especially with the lack of a shelter space, we respectfully request that the hospital board take immediate action to ensure the tenant addresses the nuisance issues. And as this is a public matter, we believe the board's action should be shared publicly so that the community can monitor the resolution of the concerns. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Mark Scott.
Thank you. We got 4 minutes left.
Yeah, wow. That was efficient.
Okay, I'm first going to ask the members of the board if they have any questions for the delegation. Oh, Southcott, what is yours first?
Thank you, Chair. Familiar with your concerns. Having, heard them either very similarly stated or anyway, at council chambers. So the question that occurs to me is, there's an assumption that the problems or the nuisance situation that you're referring to comes from 4910 Joyce. And your language is spilling from. That's something I've wondered about. Particularly, I do have a fairly extensive long-term history of working with the kind of population that we have in question. Do you have any metrics or do you have any way of measuring nuisance issues as to source? So those who may be either residents of or directly associated with 4910 Joyce, and those who are homeless. Because in my experience, the homeless population is a source of an awful lot more problems than people who are housed or sheltered even, although shelter I don't consider, nobody considers housing.
Mark, there's a member of the public behind you with their hand up. I'm not sure if they're part of your delegation and you would like to. Oh,
I too live at 4910 Saskatchewan Avenue. And every day, we have police going by, we got fire trucks going by, we got people stealing people's water pressures, lawnmowers, wheelbarrows. I had a person that lived at what we call Crystal Palace, and she was trying to get into my car. I called the police. The police were able to catch her, the act, and then they were also able to get all the stuff that she stole from everybody's cars on our street. We're tired of this. We're paying good property taxes for nothing. When is this gonna end? If people are so concerned about the homeless, find them a place away. My daughter, who was raised in Paw River, has just moved back with her family. She's been here for 2 months. She's homeless. I'm not talking about she's on drugs and stuff like that. She can't find a place. We're helping. So there's gotta be help there for somebody. Let's not just help these people that take drugs so they can go shopping at our properties. We worked hard for what we got. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that you guys would want these people in your backyard. Not when it happens every single day. And the buggies that goes by our house, and the buggies are full of bikes. You name it.
Hold on, I'm gonna,
So I've got a response
Yeah.
as well to Rob's comment. And so the subcommittee
Question.
does recognize that the impacts the community is experiencing from homelessness, criminal activity is not all tied to 4910 Joyce Avenue. And the reports that we're making, we're bringing forward to the delegation, yes, we do have direct evidence linking nuisance behavior to the residents specifically. So when we talk about thefts, we're talking about thefts from residents that are in our neighborhoods, in businesses that are directly tied and linked to the supportive housing building. Myself and the other representative of the subcommittee, Carolyn Jackson, we participated in a community advisory committee since the establishment of the building. And so at that table, all the issues related to the implementation and delivery of the house came to the committee. And so emergency services and city and other reps were at that table. So we're well versed globally on the issues tied to the building through that committee, plus through our own neighborhoods. So when I talk about thefts, I know that thefts occur in this community that are not tied to residents there, but I am just specifically speaking to nuisance factors related to that building and the residents. And one of the things that's connected on the unhoused is there's a strong association with the residents and the unhoused. They have relationships, they support one another, they have similar like activities. So a lot of them might have good intentions, but a lot of the good intentions do contribute to nuisance related issues. So yes, we do have direct evidence related to nuisance. We can provide that. One of the things we wanted to provide in our original submission were video clips that members of the organization and the public had taken, which got rejected. We would like to follow up specifically on the reference that was originally referred to us as to why it couldn't be submitted. That's for another day, but we can definitely come back if necessary with direct related evidence to support every claim we're making. And just to reiterate on those specifics in terms of, like, nuisance is a very general term too. If we look at like the dictionary aspect of what is nuisance, it's something that invades or interferes with another's rights or interests as the use or enjoyment of property by offensive, annoying, dangerous, or obstructive behaviors or unhealthy actions. So we have that occurring. It has been occurring since the house has opened. We know also as a subcommittee that to some degree, that kind of operation of supportive housing building comes with an impact. We accept that, but we believe the impacts we're experiencing are excessive and above and beyond what should be tolerated. And we draw that conclusion from members and resources that we've looked into in terms of other communities and other supportive housing buildings. And Kathy Korlick, she moved to Powell River a number of years ago. She came from Grand Forks. She was a municipal director and a hospital board director. She toured several of these other supportive housing buildings. And if you'd like, I could ask Kathy to speak to it, but essentially we know, and we have reports from other communities where they're not operating perfect, but they're operating much better with less impact than what we're currently experiencing here. So that's what we're drawing upon.
Okay, before I hand the floor to Director Lennox, I'm going to ask the consent of the assembly for another 5 minutes. Seeing nods. Okay, and then I'll put Director Elliott on after Director Lennox. Director Lennox, the floor is yours.
And thanks very much. I think the whole community has been very patient, actually trying to take some action on this topic. So I give you credit for, working with us in the time frame. Looking at the lease, there's a large section on hazardous materials, but not really the hazardous materials that our first responders and other people are facing when they've had high levels of interaction at that. And I think it's not unreasonable to hold tenants to conditions of a lease, no matter who you are. And so from what I know of what goes on there, from family members who live in the neighborhood, are part of your ratepayers, it's more than just a nuisance. And there's safety issues, and nobody I've ever talked to has said that they don't want to support people's housing, and that's not what it's about at all. I think people are looking to take constructive action within the very limited tools that we have. That's what we're seeing before us right now. So people aren't knee-jerk reacting, they're following the process, they're coming before us. So I think it's, for me anyways, trying to figure out what actions that we can take that are reasonable. A question for you. Has there been any improvement on the level of nuisance over the history of the facility? Because it's been there for a while, it's ebbed and flowed. There's been efforts through the lift and other, BC Housing. So in a short answer, can you give us?
It's erratic, and ebb and flow is a good way of describing it. And I believe one of the contributing factors is the fluctuation of staffing and direction within the provider's hierarchy. They've had a lot of managers since its operation. And as you know, any kind of operation and organization that has an important job as what they have there needs to have consistency, needs to have skills, needs to have rules and follow through. And I think my own interpretation has, from being on the committee for so long and on the community advisory committee, is variation in staffing, skill levels, and direction is one of the big contributing factors. Because when we go again to other supportive housing buildings where we say, well, ours is running pretty good, we have impacts, but not so significant, let's compare. They tell us that they've had consistent delivery through staff and supervision, and that seems to be one of the answers. So the other,
Just in the interest of time too, I want to let the other directors.
And I just want on the ebbs and flows, like one of the things we're sort of seeing a stronger force right now with the shelter. That's why I tried to reference the shelter situation and having a lot of people that don't have access to emergency shelter. That relationship and linkage between unhoused and shelter residents is strong. And so we're seeing a little bit of a surge because of that relationship and tie.
Just quickly, as far as action, you mentioned what is the legal definition of nuisance? So really coming out of this, I'd like to hear from the other directors, but for our staff and where we can go, what are the options that we have around that? Because as you say, there are ways to make this better. Thank you.
I'm going to do a preemptive request to extend the time by 5 minutes so that Director Elliott doesn't get interrupted. Is that okay with everyone? Seeing thumbs? Okay, Director Elliott, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mark. We've been on some of the same processes together. So from the process that you mentioned in your speech, yes, speech delegation talk, you said the fire smarting was the result of, but there was also fences put up and other measures put in that were designed to help mitigate the flow of people. And so it is my understanding that that has had a difference to a minimal effect. The Some of the issue, I think, has to do with policing, and the need for policing has gone up, and police are having a hard time keeping their staff levels up and staffing up to the level that we ask them to staff up to. And that is an overall RCMP recruitment issue that's affecting not just us, but many other communities. The jurisdiction for anyone to do policing activities is not there. And so some of the issues that are happening are to do with lack of policing and the need for policing to be active in the areas where they need to be. So, Lifton, nobody's allowed to do the policing for them. We don't have, no one else has jurisdiction to do that kind of activity. They can do security within their own lands only, but if someone's doing something outside that fence, they don't have jurisdiction to do anything about that. And so there's two separate issues that we are lumping together when we're talking about this. One is there stuff going on actually on the site that could be managed better? And so that's what you're here to talk about. Is there things happening outside of the site that the people who are managing the site should be managing better? That's the gray area where there isn't a lot of enforcement or ability for us or them or anybody to actually do anything about other than have conversations, which we can all do. So policing needs to step up. We've over at the city, I'm not talking about the regional district, but over the city, we've approved an extra officer. So I think we're up to 22 that we've funded over at the city and approved in our budget. And we're barely maintaining a contingent of 60, that budget of 22. And that's a staffing recruitment issue that the RCMP is struggling with Canada-wide.
Director Elliott, do you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Sorry, I get reminded by my corporate officer sometimes.
Yeah. So, given that we've both been there and we've been learning together where the boundaries are, specifically the nuisances that you think we can address are what?
Can I just jump in here, Mark?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. Thank you, Director Elliott. We're not specifically focusing on
Chair recognizes Sherry Burton as one of the delegations. Sorry, go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, sorry. There's also an incredible nuisance within the facility itself. So you have active drug dealers living there, there's coercion, there's sexual assault. From a landlord's perspective, the fiduciary duty of the landlord should really be concerned about the nuisance that's occurring directly within the building. And yes, there is issues outside the building as well. And we're kind of pleading with the hospital board to take a more active role as landlord to address nuisance, and because if these haven't been addressed, the correspondence we attached to the delegation was just an example that even the hospital board has recognized the unrest that's happening and the social concerns. So, but they've never been addressed directly with the tenant. The tenant needs to address those issues. So that's what we're trying to focus on here, and asking the hospital board as landlord to fulfill its fiduciary duties.
And just to add to that, I think we're not asking the hospital board to solve all the problems and challenges of the supportive housing building. That's not the ask. We're coming forward as a community to say, I think things could be better, and we all play a role in it. And I recognize that every agency, department, and organization is part of finding solutions and making it better, whether we're talking about the RCMP, the hospital board, the operator, BC Housing. So we're just bringing this forward to officially present it to the board to say you have linkage on this discussion on this community-minded topic. And that is your relationship with the leaseholder, that's BC Housing, and yourselves. So where you now hopefully have the means to say, we've been presented by a delegation that's brought up issues about nuisance, which is a clause in our lease agreement. We'd like to talk to you about it. And they'll be aware of it as well because we brought it forward to them. So we're hoping that community-minded solutions are built into the future to not zero out every issue, but make it better. It's not getting better. It's been waffling and ebbing and flowing. And that's why we've come forward to you, just to ask for help to make this better. To not eliminate it, but to make it better for the residents in there, plus what's going on in the community. And the argument that, you know, the provider just has a sole responsibility to control the actions and activities within the grounds, I don't really accept. I think a provider and the landlord and the delivery agents that have power on these programs, they hold a responsibility with the activities of the residents outside it as well, especially if they've been brought forward to try and improve on it. And I don't buy this, the landlord has no control. One of the things we were told at the beginning of the opening of the house, that a good neighborhood agreement would be a requirement for every resident that was going to be going into the building. And they explained to us, this is to ensure that every resident understands their role and responsibility within the community, doing respectful regard activities outside of the home and trying to not upset the apple cart. Well, that agreement never happened. We never got good neighborhood agreements, and I believe it's one of the failures of the program. We brought it up at the committee level. Why didn't you do it? And we weren't really given a satisfactory answer. But something as simple as that is drilling into a tenant that resides under a social program that taxpayers are paying. There's an expectation that, you know, you're going to do good things, you're going to have minimal impact. And I recognize that you're hampered to some degree, but there should be an expectation and actions taken that if negative activities happen, it comes back to that resident to say, you know, this wasn't good. We need to improve your behavior, just like you would with a child. So.
Okay, in the interest of time, and I'm gonna ask the assembly on this one. So we're getting a request from members of the public, from a delegation, about addressing some of these issues related to nuisance. Now, just so that everyone's on the same page, the regional hospital district, as has been clarified, is the landlord, and the tenant is the Provincial Rental Housing Corporation, which is provincial government. Lift Supportive Services, that actually operates the building, has an agreement with BC Housing. So my thoughts are, is if the regional hospital district is going to, you know, have any ground to stand on and push for something, we would actually be going to push the Ministry of Housing. Like, I don't think it's appropriate for this hospital board to be trying to get into lift stuff. It's, you know, we don't have the operational contract with Lift. We have an agreement here with the Provincial Rental Housing Corporation. And I think what I'm hearing around the table is the operators have a responsibility for the site itself. The lease, when it refers to nuisance, spreads beyond the site into some of the neighboring properties. I know we had an issue in the past with the fire smarting. And if we are going to pursue any action, I think that the action that we take would be to go after the Ministry of Housing to take a look at deeper impact, or to even provide more supports, because quite often we have issues in our community where they just aren't funding the staff supports that are needed. Just one sec. Is that the correct understanding around the assembly of what we're actually talking about here today? Because we don't have a motion on the floor. Is that kind of an understanding?
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead, Director Elliott. And I know we don't have a motion on the floor, and if that's okay with everyone, just a brief discussion of the
I'm
directors.
just a little lost with process. So we've had a delegation and we've done question period.
Yes.
Normally, if we wanted to put it on an agenda for discussion, that would be at a separate time. And it would come back with some kind of report or something. So it's, you've made some statements that may or may not be true. The discussion part of it belongs on an agenda elsewhere, I believe, like the discussion of the board.
The process can occur a variety of ways. Sometimes we get a delegation and then we have a motion directly related to the delegation. Sometimes the motion will be as simple as requesting a staff report. So as the delegation is now drawing to a close, my question for the assembly is, does anyone have a motion that they would like to put forward at this time for this board today in relation to the delegation?
So my understanding, oh, sorry.
So, sorry, Director Southcott, did you have a?
We're happy to allow Director Elliott to finish whatever her thoughts were, but I have two questions actually.
Director Elliott?
So my concern is that the ask is for us to do some type of, I won't call it enforcement, but preliminary inquiry with our tenants around options for improving things. And those would need to be within our mandate from the agreement. And that may be a bit of a legal thing. And so I'm not sure if any motion we had should, I don't know that we could make a full enough a motion at this point in time. I think we need to think about it.
That's a very good question, and I'm going to ask my corporate officer and the CAO if they have anything on those lines.
Thank you, Chair. As this is a complex item of business, we've touched that it impacts agreements, it impacts land use. There's a lot of things. We wouldn't want to consider a brand new item of business. We would want to consider a notice of motion for placement on a future agenda. So that can occur here, or a notice of motion can come forward at the next hospital board meeting, outlining exactly what wants to be addressed, and then that would be put on to the next meeting.
Or would a motion asking for a staff report be in order today, or is that still a little too preliminary? We do not have a motion on the table. Sometimes it would be appropriate to refer this to staff to ask for next steps, but nobody came here anticipating that was going to happen or that would be debated. So really, because it impacts so many different things, it might be better to address it as a notice of motion. Okay. I'm always anticipating everything, but that's the point. Director Southcott is next on the speakers list. And just to remind everyone, we don't have a motion on the floor. It's just what is our plan for the next step?
Thank you, Chair. Consequently, I have two questions. One is addresses the definition of nuisance in the lease. The wording is for greater certainty. The use of the leased area or the permitted uses will not constitute a nuisance. Now that's in 9.4. That refers back to the use, which is in the whereas clause at the beginning of the lease, section C. The tenant may operate and maintain the improvements basically to provide housing. I think that's in C. Tenant may operate and maintain the improvements, all the terms and conditions and provisions set forth in lease. No, it's not that. Anyway, essentially, it's a very simple lease for the provision of housing. Already, so the question is, what does the first question is, if the provision of the permitted uses does not constitute a nuisance, then would it be fair to say that the nuisance, particularly being referred to, is activity that is outside of the actual leased area? Now, I realize this is a question that is kind of aside from questioning what's actually going on within the building, which, as our chair pointed out, is the business of the operator, the contractor, and who they're contracted to, which is the BC Housing, essentially, the rental agency that's connected with BC Housing. So it isn't directly our business. We could advocate. And getting back to the question, is there anything that is relevant to what the regional hospital district can do that has anything to do with the definition of nuisance? Hope that's clear. And it's a question for staff, really.
That's a really good question. I'm not sure if they'll be able to answer that immediately, or they might need to have that as sent off to a staff report or ask a lawyer, because nuisance is one of those things that lawyers will debate. So, question to our staff. Do we have an answer for Director Silcott's question on the spot?
Thank you, Chair. I believe you and Director Elliott just answered it. That may be a legal question to be addressed that way.
Thanks, Chair. I think it's obvious, like, our questions need to be answered before we can take any action. Some of them are legal, interpretation, etc. So let's have a notice of motion for the next, I'll make that notice of motion for the next meeting, since we don't want to delay any further. and I'll craft one up. Can I do that on the fly or, or just give you?
After.
We could do it after, is that
I think
appropriate?
we can do it by the time we get to new business or even further.
Chair, can I just make a comment from our perspective on that question and that topic?
Okay, you got 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yeah. Our interpretation of that nuisance clause that's written into the lease agreement, when it references neighboring properties, ties in activities related to the residents and their actions outside of the property. It's not just within the property. And we had a legal evaluation of that, and that, with that wording, including neighboring properties, it doesn't exclude things outside of it. So that was just our interpretation.
Okay, thank you. And since Director Lennox is crafting a notice of motion, I guess that brings us to the end of our delegation period. Thank you very much for coming.
The last comment, if I may, we're fully in agreement with your interpretation that if the board does anything, and we really hope you do, your relationship is with BC Housing and not the operator. But we hope the issues that we brought forward regarding the operation will be part of the discussion with BC Housing Corporation. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time and bringing in the information.
Allowing us to come here. Thanks. Thanks.
Okay. Now it is 4 o'clock on the dot and
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I was just going to suggest that we have all the planning committee members here. If maybe you should ask them if they're okay with delaying.
that's what I was just about to
Okay.
do. It is now 4 o'clock. We do have a planning committee meeting scheduled for 4 o'clock. We have all the planning committee members here. Myself, I'm leaning that we continue on with the regional hospital district meeting, but I was gonna ask, are there any members in attendance that are here specifically for the planning committee meeting? Anyone online that's here specifically? Oh, we got John Haggerty is here specifically for the planning committee. If that's the case, maybe we should do a postpone or just a recess of our hospital district and then,
Well, unless John Hackett can wait.
oh, sorry,
Mr. John Hackett here.
that's also important.
Here.
Alternate Director John Hackett. How's your, how busy is your schedule right now?
Oh, he had to leave at
Oh,
4 o'clock.
You had to leave the meeting at 4 o'clock.
We asked too late.
We asked too late. Well, in that case, do we want to take a brief recess and our planning committee real quick? I have a member of the public here.
So a motion to adjourn until the planning committee meeting concludes. Would be in order.
So moved.
And moved by Director Lennox and seconded by Director Southcott. All in favor?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. So
Any opposed? None that is carried. We are
we are adjourned and we will reconvene after the planning committee.
we are adjourned and we will reconvene after the planning committee. Okay, we've got the recording in progress. That means we are back to the June 24th Regional Hospital District Board meeting. Thank you for your patience. We just had a quick planning committee. That brings us to, let's see, we've dealt with the delegations. We have no unfinished business. On to correspondence. Those, someone wants to pull it. I'll pull it, 7.1.
Sorry.
Okay, on to 7.1. Sorry, I'm switching my brain from being not the chair to
know.
being the chair.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to 7.1, business arising from correspondence. We have an invitation to participate in a meeting on July the 18th from 2 until 4.
Practice.
For family practice. Now, I'd happily attend. Is this only for one person or can the whole board attend?
We're not streaming.
Oh, so hold on. We're not streaming yet.
Okay.
We're gonna
We might have to restart.
Nope, just I think. We have-
if anyone is actually watching, please stand by. We're just having some technical difficulties.
There.
create me a new one.
Yeah.
Corporate officer.
Sure thing. It will be called part 3.
Yeah.
Slow and steady.
Ready to get to
All right. Important. People will go, what happened to the second half of the meeting?
Besides, the question was just asked for me. Give me a little second.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Let's record the session and then we will upload it afterwards. Thank you, Chair. Ready to go.
Okay, we're ready to go. So just to bring everyone up to speed, we had our correspondence item 6.1 pulled to be 7.1 business arising from correspondence. We have an invitation from the Division of Family Practice with an invitation to participate in the primary care access report card. Now, when I first read it, it's addressed to the whole board and it says I'm writing to invite you to a meeting to review and discuss the primary care access report card. To me, I think that means it's open to the whole board. The CAO also did just show me an email that makes it seem like it's for one person to attend. So the reason I pulled this was I think we should all go, but if they only want one, then we only want one. Director Elliott, go ahead.
I move that our chair attends the meeting.
Second group by Dr. Lennox. Simple. Director Silcott.
Just a comment. This was the same document that's attached here. And was presented to the public about 3 weeks ago or more than that. I did attend. It was very poorly attended. There were only about 8 maybe people in the room. I wouldn't expect that what they're going to present to us is going to be very much different, and they were really grateful for anybody turning up in the room. So my guess is that same attitude would be towards this particular meeting. I'm thinking might be worth checking with Guy.
No, it's good input. And if this motion passes, I'll reach out and ask if that invitation can also be extended to the rest of the board, increasing that participation. Director Lennox.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think it's be totally appropriate to have yourself go, and reading the report card. I think part of it is that people can see the scores. It's very kind of user friendly to interpret what you're seeing, and so I think people can, that it is a good report card visually and sort of a quick glance. So I just wanted to point that out for people that want to know what we're talking about here with the primary care physicians. Yeah.
Sorry,
Second
if I
skip
may,
ahead.
the presentation was about 45 minutes long, and it was very well put together by Christine Kai. We all know she does pretty good work. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
That's good. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? I think Director Scott is just a little delayed.
Yeah, it's a little.
There we
He's
go.
opposed to the chair going to the meeting.
Okay, so that's all in favor. That's unanimous. Okay, on to number 8, the chair's report. I'll try and be relatively quick. On May the 15th, I attended the working group with Vancouver Coastal Health and the Cathett Regional Hospital Board members that are appointed to it. Some of the things to report back on have already, of course, come out. The triage renovation is expected to start in 2025. There was also some discussion related to how this kind of change can be inclusive of all ages, including small children and families, because it's kind of a tight spot. So they're looking at kind of expanding it and doing some reorientation. So that's hopefully going to be some good news. Another one is the parking changes for staff should be currently implemented and underway. VCH staff are being instructed to not use the visitor parking and instead use the upper parking lot and the other areas dedicated specifically to staff. And therefore it should hopefully open up the facility more to our visitors who are having some challenging to get in there to not just visit their loved ones, but also quite often look after their loved ones that are in the facility. Another big news, our local hospital is finally moving away from pay-for-based charting and entering into the digital age. It was always kind of funny when I'd work in the hospital on something and people would go like, is this the 1980s? Like what? Because it coming from another facility. So that's interesting. That's good news. And also the installation of a built-in suction vacuum system is on either underway or being proposed. And for those of you that don't know, it's not a vacuum system for, vacuuming the floor. It's for like oral suction and things like that, which is actually quite important. And I have quite a bit of firsthand experience with that. I unfortunately missed the Vancouver Coastal Health Local Government Liaison meeting on May the 23rd. And I want to thank the members of the board that were able to attend and previously reported on their experiences at the qRD board meeting on the 28th of May. Looking at you, Director Elliott. Have had feedback from members of the public asking about regional hospital district issues, everything from housing. And I've also been having conversations with the chair of the Central Coast Regional Hospital District and the Sea to Sky Regional Hospital District, but we have not yet had a formal meeting since our last one, which I think was in January. But we are getting ready to have another one to discuss the MOU, which is coming up on our agenda because that was the reason for the last meeting, to figure out what's going on with the MOU. And I wish I could say that all the chairs have read it. I've definitely read it. But one of the responses I heard from one of the chairs was, well, we've been asking for it for 2 years, and if they have to wait a couple of weeks for my response, they can wait. I thought that was kind of humorous and worthwhile sharing. So yes, the MOU is top of mind for all three of the chairs for the hospital districts. And with that, that's the end of my report. Any questions? Seeing none, easy. Moving on to the consent agenda, which we have none, no resolutions from the consent agenda. Let's just go all the way down to reports, which is the proposed revised Vancouver Coastal Health Memorandum of Understanding. Before we get a motion on the floor, I was going to ask if we can have a round of questions from our members of the board.
Everybody in agreement.
Oh, it's everyone's in agreement. Thank you.
Agrees?
Are there any questions about this proposed MOU? Oh, really? Go ahead.
So the MOU is drafted by VCH.
Yes.
Has there been input from the chairs through your meeting process?
No, not on this MOU. This has not yet gone before the three chairs and myself. The proposed motion on the agenda, which is that the board accept, I would actually be more comfortable with a different motion where the members of the board provide their input and I can take that input to the other chairs where we have been discussing these issues. Because with the last discussion between the chairs, it was actually, I believe, Jenna Stoner, which took the spearheading position between the last MOU that was still in draft form and Vancouver Coastal Health. So as you might notice, this new proposed MOU, one of the first clauses is to actually rescind the old MOU. And that's where I don't really feel comfortable with kind of going that route until all three chairs have a sit down chat. The floor is still yours if it's a similar line.
So if there's room for input still, and we are currently receiving requests for funding for the types of health facilities that we haven't kind of been in the bailiwick for before. Normally, we have an agreement around funding health facilities that includes a provincial share and a share from us. And I'm just curious if there's a way to add into the MOU something that it makes entering into those conversations with the province and VCH part of, like, how do we do that? Is there a process for it? Is there a clause to be added, or a section to be added to be talking about new health facilities that are maybe not hospital specific? And I know that our long-term care and everything are not hospital specific, they're outside. But it seems like healthcare is adapting to modern ways and we need to talk about them. And I think the MOU could help in some way. I don't know what should be in the MOU, but I'm wondering if we shouldn't be proposing some wording that helps in that regard. That's my question.
No, that's really good input. And think that's kind of more along the lines of where I was thinking, rather than going this route, we get the feedback from all the directors on what we want to see in the MOU. And in addition to that, there has been discussion with the three chairs around having a joint session on the Central Coast between Sea to Sky, Cadet Regional Hospital District, and Central Coast, Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District, where we can all participate and say, like, what do all three parties want? Because there are some instances that we run into that, Sea to Sky might have already done. And then we don't need to, reinvent the wheel. So to answer your question, I think that's actually really good input regarding, new sites that are looking for funding, and where can we put that in the MOU to ensure that when, like right now we have Foundry, we have Miclac, but next year we might have another, and having something in the MOU which says, hey, this is how we move forward on it. So that way we're not having to do a ton of extra work. Good input. Director Lennox.
Thanks, Chair. First, I think I'd like to hear from the CAO on his thoughts around the comments around the current MOU being overly obligatory. And it looks, I've seen the passages that were removed, sort of to the point that Director Elliott was talking about capital, that's a big removal. I guess my question is, have the other authorities or boards been able to kind of make these, are you having those discussions? I appreciate you that you're actually preemptively getting ahead of this for us, like, but I think you understand what we're getting at. Is this a concerted effort, or are we going to have different policies for different boards? Like, I think, I'm a little, am making sense?
Yeah, sorry.
Through the chair, that was exactly my question in my own mind,
Okay.
because I did meet with the staff member who put this together, and we had a frank discussion about it. And the directions were just to comment and get feedback. Well, at least through my mind, we're gonna get some feedback from 3 different perspectives, 7, 8, or 9 times, depending on the size of the RD and the RHD. So I don't know when the chairs are going to meet again, but if they're not meeting tomorrow, I think it might be worthwhile to take the chair's suggestion and maybe just take this home as homework. Come back to a future meeting with everybody's ideas and thoughts wrapped around it as to what they want to put in here, and then make a cumulative effort rather than trying to hodgepodge it together today and a week from now forget something.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that helps me at least. I find it interesting that the language that you proposed, as you wrote, the CAO has proposed, is out of the act, whereas the extra verbiage around those commitments has actually been added to the MOU, and that's significant, right? So thanks. It's helped me a lot to understand what they're trying to tell us, what that we're responsible for, versus more of those motherhood statements that are not as specific. Thanks.
I really do like the CIO's suggestion where the directors can take it home as homework and let me know. I don't think we have anything scheduled for tomorrow between the chairs, but I've kind of been poking them every day or two, going like, when are we doing this? So I would suspect sometime between now and the next 2 weeks, we should have a meeting between the chairs. So if we want to go that route, you can fill my email inbox with suggestions if we want to go that route, in which case we don't need a motion for the assembly on this item right now. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I would like a motion to refer to staff to bring back to a future meeting, I think, if we're going to consider it later on.
Director Elliott.
So I think if it's gonna come back and we have homework to submit, staff could coordinate a deadline for our homework so that it gets into their stuff, so that it gets back on the right?
We're used to that.
Yeah, I think you're really on ball, John, or sorry.
Do we need to specify that in the motion when they need to have their homework submitted by?
I think they'll
Refer
just tell
to
us.
staff to
They'll figure it
elicit feedback from board members and
So moved.
Wonderful.
for
Perfect.
future meeting.
Moved by Director Lennox, seconded by Director Elliott. Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? I think Director Scott's just delayed again. Um, With that,
To resubmit my already put it in. or-
he's got it. Okay, with that, the motion is carried unanimously. On to new business. Oh, sorry, bylaws. There is no bylaws. And then on to new business. Now, I've submitted 3 items based on some of the items that have been dealt with in previous meetings. And with the agreement of the assembly, I was going to ask if there was any questions on these 3 items before we get into vigorous debate.
Hmm.
Director Elliott.
Just a little bit of background on Miclac. We didn't, the community forest has already provided a fair amount of funding for the Miclac project, and they're requiring additional funds. The community forest has not recommended them for funding at this time. They're kind of waiting to see if some other folks can step up, and they're kind of aware that it's coming before the Cathedral Hospital District. So, I think that the community forest, and the city via the community forest is kind of at the end of what they can do for McLeod. I think some other funders need to step up. And, it's a bit of an offload from the province anyway, in that they are funding treatment, but not any places for the treatment to take place. And that's a bit of a tough sell, in my opinion, but at least here at the hospital district, we have ways and means to try and cost share with the province. So I think this is a really great place for this project to be, and I'd like to support that one, and similarly Foundry.
Reading my mind.
I guess I don't have questions, those were my comments.
I thank you for your very creative questions. Director Lennox.
Madam Chair, I don't see any attachment here for me to refer to, and amount of X and Y, right? Like I don't remember I know there was an ask in the past. Sorry, I'm not exactly sure.
That's a very good question, and I was actually realizing that going through the agenda on our previous regional hospital district meeting agenda, we had the cost request from Miclac, and I believe they were. Oh, I scrolled too far down. They are.
I didn't want to guess. I don't remember.
Just about $900,000 over budget, which I think, so they're looking for about just under $1 million to complete their project. Oh wait, sorry. That's in their variance, but highlighted in red on page 10 of 15 of their Miclac request for funding, which was on the previous agenda, their budget shortfall is $550,000. And I very much also understand that it might be premature for us to pick a number right now.
Yeah.
And it actually, the third motion, or the last part of the third motion, might actually be the first motion where we request a meeting with the Minister of Health, Josie Osborne at the UBCM convention, to try and, wrangle out a deal of, I hate using that word now after everything going on, but to work out some kind of agreement between cost funding. That's why I didn't put down specific numbers.
I'm kind of worried the timing will be a problem sorry, I'm gonna.
So, I recognize Director Elliott.
So one of the issues is Miclac is currently building and under construction and in the middle of their project. Shutting down and waiting for funds to come in will increase the expenses of what they're doing. So ideally, we could commit funding ahead of a lot of the other stuff, but not before we meet the criteria that we need to as far as having them designated as a health facility. And that it happens before UBCM, because if you're waiting for UBCM and other people to converse with, that kind of puts the timing completely out of whack for Miclac. in their project. So I don't know if there's a way for us to commit funding and then fight for the partnering afterward or not. But if we are gonna get all of those things sorted out before we commit funding, McLeod will have fallen by the wayside and not finish their
I
project.
think the question for our CAO and our corporate officer might have an answer. Comes down to timing. As I understand, it must be a healthcare facility in order to receive funding. MICLAC does not currently have that designation. We can apply for that designation. It's what the working group informed me. Do we have any idea on how long that would actually take for the ministry to approve that designation? Because of course, we all want to do something quick. Government doesn't move fast. So question to the CAO, do we have any idea on how long it would take to even get them designated as a facility? Without keeping you here all summer.
Through the chair, no. But I can tell you through experience when trying to question the ministry about a designation, it took 9+ months.
Okay. So that's not a great option for McLeod. But might be okay for them.
Go on, next.
Yeah, thanks. Sort of related to the same question. And again, just to define it, this is the Regional Hospital Board. Which bucket would that, any contribution from us come from? Question.
As I understand, and
We have
our
our
staff can correct us, I think it comes from all,
reserves or, sorry.
I think it comes from all taxpayers of the entire regional hospital district, but if we needed the money right now, we've already passed our budget, so it would come out of the reserves. It's seeing nods from our CAO. So if we want to give them the money right now, got to take it from
We
reserve.
understand where the money is or, and how much we have. Right, sorry.
Do we have our chief financial officer around?
Thank you, no chair. We
Oh.
do have manager of financial services, Miss Lily's here.
Hello, Miss.
Easy for you to.
Oh.
Apparently I can't talk. The floor is yours, and we have a question as to how much money do we actually have sitting in the reserve if we did want to provide funding for either the MICLAC or the Foundry?
Thank you. Through the chair, the budget 2025 is projecting that we would have a closing balance of 7,916,000 in the section 20 reserve.
Does that answer your question?
It does very much so. Thank you.
Hey. Are there other questions around the table? Director Elliott.
Those same reserves would be covering any change requests coming from ZCH, right?
ECH, yes.
Yes, and we don't know what those are yet for this year. They usually come at the worst time.
Yeah. Now, going completely off memory. Oh, sorry. Celine, go ahead. I think you have some information for us. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair. That includes the contributions as part of that amount that I gave you. The budget is, so we had the opening balance of 5.9, but then the interest of about 181,000, contributions of 1.8 million roughly, and a little bit of other spending, leaving a projected balance of 7.9 roughly million.
Do we have an idea of how much money Vancouver Coastal Health wants from us for this year?
Thank you. Yes, through the chair, it is projected, like in the budget, it's 1.817 million.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but that means we still have roughly 6 million to potentially use.
Through the
Not that we're
chair,
gonna spend that.
with the contributions and the spending, the closing balance is projected to be still 7.9.
Oh, it
Okay.
includes that.
Oh, okay, yeah, includes that. So we could be really spending. No. Just, we could be.
Thank you.
CEO?
Chair, I'd just like to ask Linda a quick question. Is that reserve fund that you're speaking to also the one that we are promoting as being part of the reserve funds for when we need to replace or repair existing infrastructure?
Yeah, Willingdon Creek and, or sorry.
Willingdon Creek in particular, hospital next.
Thank you. Through the chair, the maintenance reserve for the building, the Willingdon Creek Village is separate, and it does have a projected closing balance as well of 2.996 million.
And I'm gonna ask our CIO to clarify his question.
The chair, Celine, the 7.9, is that reserves for replacement of other infrastructure, meaning Willingdon Creek or the hospital? I'm not interested in maintenance. I'm interested in capital replacement.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
So through the chair, be careful what you've got, because
Yeah.
we're putting this money together for future years for the big purchase or
Arenas next, actually.
Yeah, so just to let everyone know that yes, we have 7.9, but if we decide to blow it all up, we gotta tax again next year and the year after to rebuild that, because we're gonna need it in the long term. But I guess to answer the question of what we need to do right now, the good news is no one's asking us for $7 million. Director Lennox.
Yeah, thanks. And I appreciate that's exactly why I asked this question, is because it sometimes appears like we have all this huge amount of money, but we don't when we think long term. And the point that I don't want to lose sight of is we keep getting cost share requests every year, and we've made a point of trying to stand our ground and saying you can't keep doing that. So it's a bit of a hedge on that as well, but it's just the point I wanted to make about which bucket. So appreciate that.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Sorry, not for members of the public.
Not yet.
Alternate Director Joseph Scott, the floor is yours.
Okay, this is a very quick one. Could you remind me what X is? Approximately.
Oh,
Yeah.
we have not decided on any amount. That's why we haven't, we don't have an actual motion on the floor. That was an amount that if anyone wanted to get creative at the time. However, at this time, there is no amount that has been put forward as either X or Y. We should buy him a headset. Does that answer your question? There is no number as X or Y at this time. Okay, Director Elliott. And then we're gonna start moving on to actually getting a motion on the floor, but after. So Director Southcott, go ahead, Elliott.
So I guess what it might be good to actually try some numbers out and see where the board is sitting as far as what they think. There seems to be a lot of unanswered questions as to whether we can get things done in a timely fashion or not. So those kind of worry me. But I think making some motions will help us move forward at least.
Okay. Director Southcott.
Just with regard to MICLAD, can the regional hospital board commit any funds legitimately to MICLAD if it isn't clear that it's a health care facility? I didn't think so.
No.
So this would all be moot. Yeah. Until that question is.
So the first half of the second motion, even if we were to pass it, we couldn't actually give them the money until first motion, which is to designate a healthcare facility, goes through its long and arduous journey. CEO?
Through the chair, I'm just wondering what the intent of applying on their behalf is. Is it to like burn the candle at both ends and meet in the middle, because Miclat themselves are working on obtaining that designation.
That's good to know. At the working group meeting with Vancouver Coastal Health, they said that the regional hospital district can make these applications for facilities. And I was kind of curious, going like, well, wouldn't the facilities make the application? And they were going, well, if you want to fund them, that we can do the application. And maybe if they're doing the application, we can do it too. And if we're meeting with the minister at UBCM, if that gets approved, then maybe we can try and push them over the finish line a little earlier than 9 months. Director Elliott.
Maybe what we could do is refer a little bit of research to staff about the healthcare facility status, what's currently being done. Foundry thinks they already are designated. We need to verify that. So I don't know what the motion is, but it's to refer it to staff to get us better answers around the healthcare facilities and whether it should be us or them, or whether some people are or aren't already.
Okay, well, here's a question for our staff. The first motion, which is that the board direct staff to apply to the Ministry of Health, the healthcare facilities. If we pass that motion, like say we had it before us and we passed it, but say the Foundry already is a healthcare facility, then we don't have to do anything, right? There's no reason for us to apply if they already are. I'm just curious about the delay, because if it's going to take 9 months from the time that we actually get the paperwork in, our next meeting is September as a hospital district? August. Yes. Dr. Lennox.
Thanks, Chair. I just think that there's an application underway, which is good. We should support that application, and I think we can do that probably quicker than anything else through our staff. And so I think we should just support their application if they've done it. So that's kind of, I think that for me, the best action that we can take. And the other ones, that's the first step. So that's where I'm at.
So I think I'm hearing a motion from Director Lennox that the board supports the application from MICLAC. Is that correct?
Right. Yes, thank you. I move that the board support the application, the current application from MICLAC Society to be a healthcare facility.
The seconder. Director Southcott. Okay, motion's on the floor. All I'll say is I love it. Director Elliott.
So our CAO talked about burning at both ends. Did somebody tell you they're already doing that? Then I like the motion.
And I'll ask one question. This motion is specific to the MICLAC. Would it also be advisable later on to have a similar motion for Foundry that we would support their application as well?
Oh, sorry. I thought it was in response to both, but
Let's ask the mover. Was it your intention to?
Oh, sorry, Chair. It does say both, and I'm totally fine to support both if they both need it.
Hey, is that okay with the seconder
I'm okay
and the assembly?
with including it. I just think the Foundry might be at a different status is all. I think our wonderful delegate today believes they're already a health facility because they have to meet health standards, which is not quite the same thing as a designated facility. And so there may need to be a little bit of research to figure out. We're probably not even the first hospital district to fund a Foundry. Right, and so with a little bit of research, we can probably get to the bottom of that pretty quickly. But yeah, I'm okay with the motion.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion to support the applications or application to MICLAC and Foundry? Seeing that, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? None. That is carried unanimously. Okay. And then we've got item number 2 and 3, but they both have funding. And I'm going to actually ask the assembly if we want to refer first half of those 2 motions to staff. That way we can have the second motion, which is meeting with Minister Osborne. What's the thoughts of the assembly? Okay,
If we're going to refer them to staff, it might be to give an idea of what kind of numbers thinking, or do you think that's a bad idea or a good idea?
sorry, may I ask?
thinking about this, go ahead.
May I ask for some clarification? So the meeting with the Minister Osborne, would that be to to request designation as a health facility and then determine if joint funding was able to occur?
Yes, to both.
Perhaps that's a great first step, is to do the meeting with those goals. Schedule the meeting that way.
Perfect. Would someone like to make that motion?
Yes, so moved. Yep,
Okay,
seconded,
moved by
whatever.
Director Lennox, second by Director Elliott. Do you have that motion?
I do.
Wonderful. Okay, so the motion on the floor is that we request a meeting with the Honorable Josie Osborne, Minister of Health, at the 2025 UBCM Convention to discuss designation of healthcare facilities and cost sharing agreements. Love it. Anyone else want to hop in on this discussion? Seeing none, gonna call the question. All in favor? And any opposed? None. That is carried unanimously. And with those other two about cost sharing, we can just leave those for now. We don't need to move them or anything. And then after our meeting with the Honorable Josie Osborne, we can revisit those items. With that, corporate officer. That's gonna move on to the end of the meeting.
Oh, I just wanted to check with Director Lennox if he was going to provide a notice of motion.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for helping the chair remind me.
The next item under new business is a proposed notice of motion.
And hopefully I get the intent right here that the regional hospital district requires a staff report on the definitions of a nuisance within the current lease agreement at 4910 Joyce Avenue and options to ensure compliance from the tenant. I can type that up if you like.
That notice of motion has been received, and our next meeting is August.
At the end of August, the last 27th or 28th, sorry.
Yeah.
I did not have it open here.
I think it's the 27th or 20.
Already.
26th, I
The
think.
26th.
And then when that
Is that
notice of
area
motion
B or
comes
is that-
forward, we would
Is
have,
that area B? Or is it the 27th as an area B?
Thank you, Chair. It's the 27th that will be
On tour.
on the road. Yes.
Okay, so that is a notice of motion for August the 26th, I presume. And with that, we are moving on.
I have a question.
What?
When the notice of motion comes forward, is that the part where we just get notice and we don't talk about it yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct? Sorry, I jumped into the corporate office.
Or is that the part we're doing right now?
Yeah.
So section 4.38 of the procedure bylaw under new business indicates that items of new business which are not on the agenda and are of a complex nature or that may affect existing board bylaws or policies shall be introduced as a notice of motion for placement on an agenda for a future meeting. So I believe that is when we will clarify the intent of this, or we can consider that as an item of business in August.
Okay, so some of the questions about how we should probably proceed, you would have some advice for us at that time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
That's the notice of motion. We're receiving it. We don't want to spend another 3 hours debating it today. We can do that now. Okay, now item number 15, question period. Mr. Galinsky.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to pose a question. With regard to item 12.1, which was the Vancouver Coastal Health Memorandum of Understanding revisions, there was a motion associated with that and I did not catch it. I'm hoping the corporate officer can advise me what it is or email me a copy of that at her convenience.
Corporate officer.
Yes, thank you. So this was to refer the report back to staff with direction to solicit feedback from board members and provide them with a timeline for inclusion on a future agenda, which will occur in August.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, our corporate officer will also send you a copy of that via email.
That would be perfect. Sometimes her audio isn't too discernible, so it would be great to have the hard copy.
Wonderful. Any
That
other
was my question, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galinsky. Any other questions from members of the public?
It's your chance.
I was just gonna add the comment that I'm glad you're planning for the future for the seniors and the Evergreen Care Unit. And I know I'm a member of the Seniors Advocate Group.
Is there a question?
The question is, I hope you're planning not only for its replacement, but a third building.
Don't get me started. Director Elliott, do you have a question?
That's a good.
Well, I wanted to try to respond to the question that Mark had. And when I've been attending the meeting,
Yes, we are
With all the
planning
group
for
people?
long-term. Yeah.
they intend to start the master planning for hospital and facilities. You said after Christmas, maybe starting January?
Yeah, there's a plan for, they changed it from master plan to community.
And that's where that would come into the plan.
But yes, as soon as the Wellington Creek was finished, it was immediately full and there was a wait list. So yeah, there's a huge demand. Any other questions?
On it.
Seeing none. We have no in-camera session. We have no rise and report from in-camera session. And as we have completely exhausted our agenda, we are now adjourned. Thank you for coming. That's it.